Hey, welcome to Paint Flowers and More. I am Megan and I'm your host. Hi. And we are going to paint, and I wanted to go over some things that I like to do just in case, or things I like to use, and we'll get started. So, if you all can't hear me or can't see me, let me know in the comments. I am looking. And let's see here. So I am today going to use Paul Rubens watercolor and wet mix media block, and it's 300 grams, and it's roughly 5 by 7. And one of the things I like about doing a block is that it's gummed right here. So all the way around, it's gummed, so it doesn't warp, and it's really fun to work with. So that's what I'm going to use today. I have a pencil, just a regular number 2. I have my kneaded eraser, which is just like Silly Putty, and it is great for erasing because I hate those erasers. They definitely are a problem, and they make a mess. And then I have a few brushes here today. So I'm going to use, let's see, what do I have here? An Escada, and it's, I think, a 6 or an 8. I don't know. And then I have a small brush, Princeton Select, and it is a 20/0. And then I have another Princeton Select. Princeton Selects are really some of my favorites. And it is a 1/4 inch mop, oval mop, and it works really, really well, especially for flowers. And then I have a Simply Simmons number 2. Now you could use round brush. You could use this for anything, but once you use this for something else, you always want to use it for that. So, like, this has never touched acrylic paint before. All right. I have over here on this side, which you all aren't going to be able to see today, is a whiteboard, and that's where I actually mix my paint with. And then I have a very cheap, I think it's like $9.99, Michaels. I think it's for Michaels. It might not be for Michaels, but paint set here. And notice it's coming apart. I just can't keep those little things on, that's for sure. And I have a paper towel down here at the bottom. And today we're going to stay in this range right here of the pinks and the reds. And we're going to work. So I'm going to just come down here so y'all can see that. And let's get started. So I am going to start with drawing out a heart. And I'm going to cover up my whole piece of paper here. And what we're doing is we are actually going to make an actual heart with flowers in it today because it's Happy Valentine's Day. So I'm going to start in the middle of my paper. And you see, I always start with 2 dots because it helps me like frame the paper. And then I lightly draw on here. I'm going to give myself a finger on both sides and come down. And then I'm going to do the same. Now, I always seem to make this left one different, and that's okay. So I'm going to just come in and bring it just like that. Now, we're going to look at it and go, oh, this side got a little wide, but I like that. So I'm going to just bring this one down. Now, back to that kneaded eraser. This is the best part about this kneaded eraser. So you clean it by doing this, kneading it, and then all you do is you lightly move it on here and magically it is gone. So tell me in the comments what you're doing for Valentine's Day. I am painting, as you can tell. And now I like that. So that's what I'm going to kind of work with right there. So how do we make some roses inside this and fill the whole space? So what I'm going to start with is I'm going to start with this number 8 brush, and it's a round brush. So one of the things that I'm going to start with is I'm going to start with some little dots in here. So I have some water over here to the right that you can't see, and I'm going to add some big old, now my water is dirty, so that's why you can actually see this water. Hopefully you can see it. I think you can. But I'm just putting down some water on here, and it's supposed to be standing on the paper, basically. I don't want it to really soak in just yet. And I probably shouldn't do all of these at once, but I kind of wanted to see what I was getting myself into first. That's always a good idea. And water can't hurt, right? All right, so I've got these dots here. Now, it's very important that when you're wanting to make a shape, of like a shape without a line, that you do stuff right at the line and it cuts it off. And that helps make the shape. So like, I'm going to make one right there. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just move that right over here, spray this to activate those watercolors. One of these days, we're not going to paint with watercolors. We're going to paint with something else. But this is very easy. Now look how much water I have on that. Pretty much a lot. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take I'm going to take this red color and I'm going to put it down here. Now, I like that. Okay, so here I have, let's move this out of the way. We have that, and now that's what I'm going to use. And right now, what I'm going to do is come in here, and I'm going to start putting wherever I had my wet dots, I'm going to put in some of these. Okay, and notice that some of them are more pigmented than others. All right, the reason why is because I'm letting my paint water down a lot, and then I'm going back in to the paint well in the palette. I think there was a dot there. I think there's a dot there. I'm trying to remember where I have my dots. So I'm having to actually look like sideways at the camera to see, and you'll see that it's not bleeding everywhere because watercolor stays on watercolor. And that is what is so great about watercolor. All right, so here I have some good dots here. That's good. I'm liking that. Okay, so now I'm going to add some pink. I'm going to make some of these pink. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to find me a pink, and I'm going to add some pink in here. Okay, and notice I'm just kind of going in the middle here of some of these. I don't want every one of them to be pink. I just want a little bit. All right, now I'm liking that. That's a good amount. See how that tinted those just a little bit more pink. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start working on how to make this actually look like a flower. So I'm going to switch brushes because this holds a lot of water. So I'm going to go down to actually my number 2 brush because, I never said I was going to use all those brushes. You don't have to. We're just going to see how that goes. So from here, I am going to go in and I'm going to go back to that red, and I am not going to water it down. So do you see that? I have it on my brush, and I'm going to start putting it down, and I'm kind of moving it in this little pattern of a C. Now, there's a lot of water here. I should have not done that, too much water. Might need to let it rest and dry a little bit, but we don't have time for that, do we? So if we don't have time for that, guess what I'm going to use? My handy dandy what? Hairdryer. The heated tool from Ranger. It's like my favorite thing. Now, I could come in here and go, okay, while this is drying a little bit, I could move into something else, like green. But I don't want them to bleed too much. But that doesn't mean I can't do some of that. So let's go in. I'm going to go in and do that just a little bit. I get some green. And I'm going to just come in. Notice it's going to very lightly, it might bleed a little bit. And I'm okay with that. Now, I don't want them all to bleed. But do you see how I'm really staying true to the side, to the edge of that line? And that doesn't mean I'm always doing just two. Sometimes I'm doing three. But I'm putting in that greenery in here. And basically, you don't think of it as I'm putting in leaves. I'm putting in some, green lines, really. Now, I am really liking how that green is starting to make this look like an actual flower, right? Or is making it frame it a little bit. Now down here, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to come up just like that. Now each one of these has this little green flower. I think I'm going to do that right there. Now, am I missing one? I think I'm missing this one right here. Now, just by adding those little green, I'm starting to feel like this is almost Valentine's Day. How cool is that, right? Yeah. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if it's still wet. And the way I can tell is moving around. Is there this, do you see that right there? The shine on some of these? That's saying it's too wet. And if you do that, it's going to just kind of blur and run. So I'm going to hit this with a little hair dryer. So this is my heated tool. The good thing about this tool is that it doesn't blow really, really loud. And it doesn't have, like, it's not very powerful. Like, it can't blow your hair dryer, how you're like, oh my gosh, everything's going to, like, blow away. That's not what this is. I've hit it just a little bit. You don't have to hit it much. Okay? And now I'm going to come in, and this time I'm going to go back into my pink because I just touched those red ones. So let's see what we can do with the pink. So that means it's still a little dry, but I'm going to just add my little dots here in here. And I'm going, okay, I'm seeing it. I'm going to do a little bit of the same. Now I'm going to make a darker red. So I'm going to have my red, and I'm going to actually add a little bit. I think I'm going to add a little bit of green to that red. And it kind of makes it a brick red. And I'm going to come in, see if I can. Now, you could have added a brown to it, but I also don't really want brown roses. So here I am, and that's very brown, right? All right, now I'm starting to see some of these flowers. I like that. All right, I'm going to go back to I'm going to go with a red orange next. And I'm going to add some red to that. So now it's a brighter. And one of the things, this is the big key, this is what I wanted to teach today, is that when you're doing a flower, it's these C's all the way around. You see, we sort of started it there, but it's different colors of red to make them. And it kind of has to go outside of the box here. So that's a really good indication of what I'm doing there. And I spent one whole like summer basically trying to practice what petals look like and how they go in an actual flower. And one of the things that is that there are these C's, but they never really line up together. And they kind of come out like that. Now, I'm really liking the way that's looking and how it's like bleeding all together. So I'm going to do the same with my pink, but I'm going to add a little bit of purple to that pink. And I'm going to do that with this. Nice. Oh my gosh. I love it. Okay, so here I am adding a little bit all the way across. And it's just C's, just little C's everywhere. Let's see, that one's really, really wet, so it's having some trouble keeping that color in there. Same thing for this one, right? Oh, that's nice. And if they're getting bigger and bigger, I don't mind that because I want to fill this whole space up. I don't really want to have all of this white space in it. So, with that being said, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to come in with I'm going to add that red again, but I'm going to add some red with that purple color and see what color that makes. Ooh. And this time, one of the things that I'm doing is I'm using the side of my brush. Did you see that? I'm pushing down pretty hard. And you're like, these just look like blobs. They do right now, but I promise it'll get there. And I really want them nice and large. I want them blooming. I don't want these little bitty ones. I want blooms. Okay, now I like that. That's working. And you see how they're not uniform? They're all a little bit different size. They're all a little bit different. So now I'm going to come in with some more pink. Let's see. Basically, I've made a mixture of light pink, and I'm going to just come in. I think I'm going to have to hit it with a dryer. One of the things about getting used to working with this block is that the way it holds water. Now, what I probably should have done, this is just so you know, probably not have done the water puddles to begin with. I probably should have started differently and not done that. That would have saved this water problem that I'm having. But I'm still liking it. So let's hit that. We're going to hit that with another dryer. And so one of the things that we're going to do now is we're going to add a little bit more detail to some of these. But we have to make sure that it's pretty, pretty dry. And now I can already tell that this is some cheaper paint. One of the ways I can tell that is that there's like this, I'm going to say crust, kind of. Like, you see how it's becoming really chalky? Well, that is telling me that it has a lot of filler in it, and it's a little bit of a cheaper paint. If you buy the paint that is more expensive, it doesn't have that, which is fantastic. It's definitely something that you should think about if you're going to start this. Now, I am feeling this, and that is feeling really dry. That's good. All right, so I'm going to come back with my brush, and let's go back in here with some red, pure red, and I'm going to come in this time, and you see I didn't water it down, and I start small, and then I get larger and fatter with that. So here's 1, 2, and 3. Now I'm going to go in between them, and I'm making them thicker as I go out. And you're like, this does not look like it, but I promise it will. And sometimes I get smaller, but I get thicker. Did you see that? So what I mean by that is smaller, kind of like a peony would be. All right. And the darker I get. So I'm not really watering down my red paint that much at all. I really want potent red. And it's really starting to be bright, getting it a little bit wild. I love this one that's happening up here. It is looking great. And you kind of want the centers to be more bright or dark, I guess. And then the lighter you go to the outside. You don't want. So I think I've done all those red ones. Now let's get in here and add some pink to this. So I'm going to add some hot pink. Let's see if you can see that. Can you see that? I'm adding that to the outside of these because it's a lighter color and you can't really tell what I'm doing. So that's why I'm adding it to the outside edge. And here's the outside. All right. Now, do you see how they're blooming out? They're covering up some of that white space. I'm going to let this sit for just a little bit and let's go into some of that green. So one of the things I'm going to do with the green is I'm going to make another green that's more yellow, natural. I guess I'm going to say natural. Natural. That is a good word for it. So one of the things I'm doing is taking some green and some yellow and putting it together to make this olive-like color. And I'm going to come in and every once in a while. Oh, I've forgotten that little baby one all by itself. Gonna have to do that. And do you see how it's one, it's random, two, it's loose. I'm not going everywhere, and you see it's not exactly on top of something. It's like beside it. But how that is actually making us look more like a heart, and it's covering up some of that white space. So I've done that. Now let's go back to this little red guy here. And let's make him. There we go. Now, again, I'm now going to just come in to the inside and see if I can't make the inside a little bit tighter. What I mean by that is that you see I'm staying just in the center because you know a rose gets really tight on the inside. It's almost black if you look at it when you I mean it's dark red. So but with the shadows and stuff, it gets really dark. So that's kind of why we're going darker at the center part. That's why I started. I am going to start putting the red dot in the center where we had the darker dot. That's going to help make it look a little bit more. Now, I'm starting to see some roses. I like it. Who needs roses when you can paint your own, right? I'm going to go into some pink and let's do that. We are almost finished for the day. I'm going to do a little bit here. A pure paint coming in, making it tight. My husband always had back pain. He would always say, it's tight. And I would be so tired of him saying that. So, yeah, why don't you stretch it? That's what I always wanted to say. Okay, so, yeah, I'm not very sensitive. For all the people who have back pain, I'm sorry that you have back pain. And I know stretching doesn't always help. There you go. I said it. So you don't have to be worried. He ended up having surgery and he's doing much better and he doesn't say that no more. All right, now I'm liking that. I'm liking that a lot. I'm going to start making a little bit. So I'm going to take some gray. And you're like, gray? Why why are you taking gray? Gray is a great, what do you call it? Um, it's a very good color to start making things look darker without overpowering, like with black. You see how just by adding a little bit of this gray, and it's a wash kind of, so it's kind of watered down, is making that really pop out in that middle section of these flowers. And it's not too dark that it's overwhelming them. And every once in a while, it's okay if it actually like, you're like, sometimes these look like just little blobs. Well, they do, but wait until we do the pen work and you will see. Now, I kind of want them touching each other, so I'm going to come in and on some of these, make them even larger. You see how I'm just coming to the edge? And just by adding a little bit of that light color to it, I'm going to get a little bit of pink and do that to this one. Yeah, and here. Isn't that nice? All right. We're going to hit it with a dryer and then we're going to get in and we're going to actually do some pen work. My favorite thing. So here we go. Let's paint. Let's dry, 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 dry. And here is another 30-minute project that you can do. Pretty easy. Now, I'll be honest with you. I think I really would like, I shouldn't have started with the puddles at the beginning. You'll see that because I think I'd like to have a little bit more white space between my flower petals a little bit to show them. But, that works. All right, that's good. Okay, now I'm going to get my favorite Uniball Signo 207 bold pen. It is my absolute favorite, and it's a bold. So, and one of the things I like to do is I'm going to illustrate this now because it's kind of like my style. So I start in the center, and do you see how I make these crescent moons? So basically, I'm outlining the shape of the petals, and I'm actually using some of those petal shapes from the actual paintbrush. That's why I kind of really like doing it with a big old paintbrush, is because it's giving me some of the shapes. And now some people don't like to do my black outlining, and I totally understand that. This makes it more illustrative, makes it a little bit more, um, I'm going to say, not arty. This is not arty. This is more illustrative, more cartoonish. But, and some people could say that this is like a crutch. It might be. Um, I'd have to keep working at this piece to make it really what I want it to make, more than 30 minutes. And do you see how sometimes I'm moving the center of the flower and getting more, see, like, so this one's pointed this way a little bit, but this one is going to be right on center. Wherever you put the hole, like the top with that, do you see how that is making this one point a little bit? And there's that little one I forgot about. And I just come in and I make these little C crescents. And that is showing. Now, next week, I'm not sure what we're going to do because, no more flowers or no more hearts. And we'll be going to something else. I don't always have it planned on what I'm going to do. but I am enjoying these. I hope you are too. And if you are, you can join my newsletter for more classes of mine. I have an online classes that actually do a lot more explaining than I do in these little things. It takes you from drawing and it takes you, now I'm going to go into these, um, what do you call these? Come on now, leaves. It's so hard to talk sometimes. Ugh. All right, and to make them a little bit different, I'm adding that middle line and just kind of showing that this is a little bit different. And I'm really liking the way this is turning out. It's pretty cute. And I don't have to do every single one of them. And that's also something that I like about this is that when I loosen up when I get to this pen. Now, one of the things that I'm going to do in here is I'm going to add a little bit of these little flowers. Thank you, Tracy. I know, right? I love flowers and I love hearts. What more could you want? I know, glitter. I could want glitter because I love glitter too. You know, I don't use that much glitter anymore, but man, I love it. Okay, so now I've added this little texture in here, which works really great. But guess what I'm going to do now? Curlicues. I mean, you got to add some curlicues in here. I will say sometimes I like to add dots inside, because sometimes the different type of flower roses have those little things that, you know, look like dots. And I just add some dots here. All right, people. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. That is, I really like the way that turned out. And I did that right there. Okay, you'll be able to see this on my YouTube and also on my Facebook channel unless I accidentally delete it. But my YouTube channel is Megan Bailey Gill on YouTube and you can see it there. So I will talk to you later and happy Valentine's Day.